Have you ever walked past someone in need, maybe told yourself you were too busy or that someone else would surely help? We've all been there. But what if that simple choice, to stop or to keep walking, was the difference between life and death? Today, we're diving into one of the most powerful stories ever told, a story that challenges our very definition of neighbor and asks a gut-wrenching question. Who are you in the story of the Good Samaritan? The scene is a desolate, dangerous road, notorious for bandits, stretching from Jerusalem down to Jericho. It's a place you wouldn't want to travel alone, and on this very road, a man, just an ordinary person like you or me, is on a journey. Suddenly, disaster strikes. Robbers ambush him. They don't just take his money, they strip him of his clothes, beat him mercilessly, and leave him for dead in a ditch by the side of the road. He's barely breathing, exposed, and utterly helpless. Every second that ticks by, his life hangs by a thread. Now, imagine the scene. The sun is beating down. The man is groaning, his life fading away. Along comes the first person. It's a priest, a man of God, someone you'd expect to be the first to help. He's on the same road, probably heading back from his service at the temple in Jerusalem. He sees the man lying there, broken and bloody. What does he do? He crosses to the other side of the road and keeps walking. He doesn't even slow down. Why? Was he afraid the robbers were still nearby? Was he worried that touching a bleeding man would make him ceremonially unclean? We don't know his reasons, but we know his action. He did nothing. A little while later, another person approaches. This time, it's a Levite. Levites were also part of the religious establishment, assistants to the priests in the temple. He too sees the half-dead man. He might have even paused for a moment, looked a little closer. Perhaps a flicker of concern crossed his mind. But then, just like the priest, he moves to the other side and continues on his way. Two men, both pillars of their community, both deeply religious, saw a fellow human being at his most vulnerable, and both chose to walk away. It's a sobering thought. How often do our own rules, our own routines, our own comfort become more important than a person in desperate need? Just when all hope seems lost, a third traveler appears. This is where the story takes its famous turn. He's a Samaritan. Now, to understand the shock of this, you have to know that Jews and Samaritans in that time had a deep historical animosity. They despised each other, had different places of worship, and generally avoided any interaction. For a Jew, a Samaritan was the last person you'd ever expect help from. They were considered outcasts, enemies. Yet when this Samaritan sees the man on the road, something different happens. The Bible says he was moved with compassion. This wasn't just a fleeting feeling of pity. This compassion spurred him to immediate action. He didn't just walk over. He got off his animal and knelt down in the dust and the dirt beside the wounded man. He didn't see a Jew, an enemy, or a stranger. He saw a human being suffering, and he did everything he could. He took out his own supplies, oil and wine, which were used as ancient antiseptics and soothing agents, and gently cleaned the man's wounds. He bandaged them, likely using strips of his own clothing. This was personal, hands-on, and messy. He didn't delegate the task or hope someone else would handle it. He got involved. But the Samaritan's help didn't stop there. He knew the man couldn't survive being left on the road. So, with great care, he lifted the heavy injured man onto his own animal, the one he had been riding, and began to walk alongside him, taking him slowly and carefully to the nearest inn. This act alone speaks volumes. He sacrificed his own comfort, his own speed, and his own journey for this stranger. He didn't just provide first aid, he took full responsibility for the man's safety and recovery. When they arrived at the inn, his compassion continued. He stayed with the man through the night, watching over him, making sure he was stable. He didn't just drop him off and disappear. He invested his time. The next day, before he had to continue his own journey, he did something even more remarkable. He took out 2 denarii, which was about 2 full days' wages for a laborer, and gave it to the innkeeper. He said, "Look after him, and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have." He wasn't just giving a one-time donation. He was opening an unlimited line of credit, guaranteeing the man's complete care until he was fully recovered. This was radical, unconditional generosity. This story was Jesus' answer to a lawyer's question. And who is my neighbor? The lawyer was trying to find a loophole, a way to limit the scope of his responsibility. But Jesus flips the question. He doesn't define who our neighbor is. Instead, he asks, "Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers?" The answer is obvious: the one who showed mercy. The story isn't about identifying who deserves our help. It's about becoming the person who gives help, regardless of who the other person is. True neighborly love isn't about proximity, race, religion, or social status. It's about compassion in action. It's about seeing a need and meeting it, even when it's inconvenient, costly, or unpopular. The priest and the Levite saw a problem to be avoided. The Samaritan saw a person to be loved. This parable challenges us to look at the people around us, in our communities, on our streets, even online, and ask ourselves, are we crossing the road, or are we stopping to help? The beauty of the Good Samaritan is its timelessness. The road to Jericho is any place where people are hurting. The man left for dead is anyone who is vulnerable, lonely, or in crisis. The robbers can be anything from physical violence to poverty, illness, or injustice. And we, every single day, have the choice to be like the priest, the Levite, or the Samaritan. We can choose to be busy, to be clean, to be right, or we can choose to be compassionate. So let this story sink in. Think about the last time you saw a need. What did you do? The call of the Samaritan isn't to do everything for everyone, but to do what you can for the person in front of you. It's a call to let our hearts be moved with compassion, and to let that compassion lead us into action, no matter how small. It's in these moments that we truly understand what it means to love our neighbor. Thank you so much for joining me today to reflect on this incredible story. If it resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you'd like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content that explores life's biggest questions. Let me know in the comments what the Good Samaritan means to you. Stay compassionate, and we'll see you in the next video.